Hey there everybody, it's Verity here from inkybutterfly.com. Thank you for joining me again today for another card making video. And we are using Planted Paradise today to make a card. So we're going to do a variation on the theme, and this isn't exactly how it's going to turn out. This one, I have to confess, I was just messing about with it, just seeing what kind of layout I might use, and it just so happens to use all the retiring in colours. So it's a really bright palette that in that particular colour family. So we've got Parakeet Party, Sweet Sorbet, Tahitian Tide and Starry Sky and Orchid Oasis. They're the 5 colours that will be retiring very, very soon. So if you like them, get hold of them, because they won't be around for much longer. Planted Paradise is a standalone stamp set. It's one of the ones that you can use both sides of the stamp set on to get different effects, but we're just using them in the traditional sense today. And I wanted a nice sort of skinny sentiment, so I've brought it out. This is an older stamp set which you'll find in the annual catalogue, so I wanted something that was going to fit along there, so I picked out something from that. So that's where that came from. So let's pop these somewhere out the way. And like I say, we're going to do a bit of a variation on a theme with this. This is all very, very bright. We're going to tone it right down, go back to some natural kind of colours, or kind of neutral colours. There's a nice little new product here as well, this lovely embossing folder. This is actually a set of 2 mini embossing folders that you can get right now as an online exclusive. Okay, so check those out, pack of 2. They fit in the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss if that's what you've got, but obviously they will go through the big one as well. A bit more sort of geometric and a bit of a stitch design. It's kind of nice. Kind of feel a bit sort of, I don't know, like tiles and that kind of thing. And then we've got this cute sort of floral one. So use this one. So let's use this one. And because I'm using this one, and it definitely has, I would say that definitely has a direction to it because of these arches. So it's not going to work in that orientation, which is what I did for this card. So we're going to just switch around the design a little bit and do that a little differently. So as I say, we're going to go back to a more neutral palette. So I'm going to use Crumb Cake and Early Espresso as sort of the matte pieces, and then we're going to cut our plant pots in the shades of grey we've got. These are the ones from the main palette. So we've got basic grey, grey granite and smoky slate. There is Pebble Path as well that we could use. Okay, and then I've got some old olive and mossy meadow to do all the little plants. Okay, so this is one of my mini layers. So this is 3 inches by 4 3/4. Okay, and I'm just lining this up in the folder because me being me, I just like things to be even. So I'm definitely looking side to side now, not so much top and bottom. I don't think it matters so much top and bottom for this design, but definitely side to side I'm looking to have that reasonably even. And we can put that through the embossing folder, through the cut and emboss machine. So we'll take out the die adapter, and we just want a base platform, a cutting plate and a plate on top, and we'll just run that through. So my machine just sits off camera to the right here. I'm fortunate enough to have the space to leave it out, which means I can just reach across and use it. Okay, so I can put that back in now. Okay. So it's a regular, it's not a 3D embossing folder, it's a regular embossing folder. And this is what you get. So that's what I would say is the real side. But I always like to look at what it looks like on the back. And actually, do you know what? Both of these folders really look cute on the back as well. Somewhere I've got a scrap with I don't know what I did with it. Maybe I chucked it. I don't know. But the other one looks really good on the back as well. So, you know, have a look how both of them turn out, and use the side you like best. Now, of course, it's always nice to just do a little bit of ink over the top of embossing folders. So I'm just going to grab this ink blending brush, and I was just going to see what was on the on there, but there's not a fat lot on there. So let's grab the crumb cake ink. And we'll just put a little bit more ink on that brush, just to bring that out a little bit, just in circular motions around the edges in particular. Okay, it sort of puts a bit of a spotlight on your card. Totally optional, you don't have to do that at all, but I just like the look it gives you when we do that. Okay, and we can just get that stuck down onto our layer. Now the back of this is actually quite flat, so I'm going to go with the stamping seal. If it's really textured, you may find it's better to use your wet glue, but I'm just going to go with my snail because I like using that. Just get that on here. So like I say, this is what I call a mini layer. Now what I'm finding here is so the cardstock may stretch and buckle, so whatever you cut it down to, it might come out just slightly different once you've put it through the embossing folder, but it's not as much, it's not so much that I'm going to be worried too much about it. Okay, so 3 by 4 3/4, and then the early espresso is 3 1/8 by 4 7/8 of an inch, basically an inch shorter and narrower on the layers. Okay, so that's that, and then because we're going to be popping up other elements, this is going to go on nice and flat, so you can pop that onto the card base. I find that easier to do on the side like this. I just find it easier to visualise the borders there. Okay, and that's the card base done, and then we've got all these bits of cardstock. So what we're going to be doing is basically some tone on tone stamping. So we need all 3 of these ink pads out for each of these cardstocks. Okay, and then we want to think about which way we want these to go. So I think I might do the biggest one because I'm thinking it's going to be sort of pushed back a bit. So let's do the dark one with this. This is really wet ink pad. I evidently don't use much basic grey, so sometimes you might find that you might want to take off some of that ink a little bit and just give that another go. So there we go, that's going to be a little bit better. You know, when you get glazed pots, they aren't necessarily uniformly glazed, you know, so that hasn't come out very well at all. Okay, let's wipe that off, and we will use, this is the thing with very wet ink pads, they sometimes come out a little bit on the when you've got detail in them. They don't always stamp the best, so in fact what I might do is just partially ink it up and then spread it out a bit with a brush, just to tone that down a little bit. Let's try that. We'll use a sponge dauber, you can do that as well. So we're going to get a different texture on that. Oh, that's better. I can cope with that. Okay, so there's a tip for you if it's not working out. Use a dauber or a brush to apply the ink. Okay, so let me just cut that off and we'll keep hold of that. That's simply because that's a very wet ink pad. That's all that's happened there. This one's grey granite. Which one should we do with grey granite? Let's do this little one. I really don't use basic, I don't use basic grey very often at all. Okay, so that one's come out lovely. Okay, and then we've got smoky slate. Just wiping these off as I go for this one. So I've used, there's 4 pots in the set, so I've used 3 of them. Okay, wipe that off, and again we'll just snip away that excess. Okay, and then likewise with the Old Olive and the Mossy Meadow, we've got coordinated ink pads for those. So again we'll do some tone on tone with this for, let's see, oh, I've just realised I've jumbled up, I was planning on, I put all the ink pads, sorry, all the stamps next to the ones I was going to use. I think I was going to use that one with that one, that one with that one, and I definitely want it in that colour. And where's the bigger one? This one. And these are going to go in the bigger plant pot. So I just want to mix up the colour a little bit. So I'll do 3 of them as well. That's in the Old Olive. Rub that off. And then the Mossy Meadow, we're going to use this one. So that looks quite dark, but once you put it next to this, it doesn't look so dark. I'm going to do 3 of them. I'm not sure how many I need, but 3 will definitely be plenty. And then I want this little skinny one. Again, not sure how many I actually want. So I'm going to stamp 3. And then we'll see where we go from there. Alright, so next thing is to do a whole bunch of fussy cutting. So now to some of you that's going to sound like a complete and utter nightmare because you don't like fussy cutting, but there are no coordinating stamp sets, dies or punches with these. I won't say that I'm a particular fan of fussy cutting either, but these aren't super difficult shapes to fussy cut. Of course, if you've got trouble with your hands or whatever, that kind of, you know, doesn't matter how simple the shape is, it's just hard for you to do. So you can stamp directly onto cardstock with that. I have done a card previously where I have done stamping directly onto the card, again to avoid the fussy cutting. So if you want to have your if you want the plants to look like they're coming out of the plant pot and you don't want to fussy cut, then you could use masking techniques to do that. this pot as well, I don't know, could actually go the other way around and be more like a vase. Maybe to use with some of our other sets. So there's all our grey little pots, ready for their greenery to be put in. Okay, so we're going to continue doing all of these and getting them cut out. The other thing with these and like the skinny one as well, well, in fact possibly all of them, if you don't cut these out desperately accurately, no one's going to know, okay, unless you're trying to keep a border around them. So I'm going to cut up to the stamp line, up to the stamped edge, and then it's really not going to matter if my cutting out isn't super accurate. The other thing that can disguise some wibbly cutting out is going over it with a coordinating marker of some description, whether that be Stampin' Blend or a Stampin' Write marker. Either way, that would work just to cover up some raw edges or some missing bits or whatever you want. Okay, so we're going to carry on cutting all this stuff out. And see, that one's got a bit wibbly wobbly. That isn't exactly how it is intended, but it's not going to matter because plants aren't all the same. Okay, so so this one, I found it easy just to go round the bottom in one smooth line like that, and then sort of snip in from the side like so, and then meet in the middle here. So that's how I did that one. It was quite nice to do. And this one, and then these guys are quite nice as well because they're reasonably smooth lines. Okay, everything's fussy cut out, so we can start thinking about how we're going to get this onto our card. So let's just grab some dimensionals. Okay, so let's do these. Probably only need one on that one. A couple on this one. I'm going to put one of the sort of little offcut strips across the back of that one, just to help that out a little bit. Okay, and then before we put on all our, before we stick things down, let's just make sure everything's where we want it, where we're going to put everything. So I figured the darkest one could go at the back. And then we'll have the other ones sort of coming across in front. Maybe a little bit like that, so that we've got things breaking the border and all that kind of stuff. Maybe a bit lower down. So let's do that. We're going on to a textured surface as well, so what I think I shall do is add some multi-purpose glue on the back of this, just to help it bond with that background. It may not be completely flat. Okay, so we'll just pop that in there. Oops. This one over here a little bit, and this one towards the front of the middle, like so. could have doubled up that one. So on this card I actually put double layers on that, just to lift it from the other ones. Okay, and then we can start putting these things together. Okay, so the big plant pot's going to have a combination of these sort of long things and the big sort of fat leaves. So we'll just use some multi-purpose glue and we'll just get those in. Okay, and even if they're not tucked right the way down, no one's going to see that behind these guys. Okay, so you might want to bend them a little bit as well, to give them a bit of life. Kind of depends on whether you're planning on sticking it in the post or not, because obviously they'll get squished anyway. But I sort of put a whole heap of texture on the ones that I made. It really kind of has quite a bit of dimension to it, but you know, that's entirely up to you if you want to do that. Okay, this guy's going to have, I'll bend this one a little bit. This guy's going in here, I think. So he might need a little bit of a, I'll put a small dimensional, mini dimensional I should say, on this one, just so it tucks into there and still makes contact with the card base. Might want to press that a little bit. And then, yeah, same with these guys, we'll just bend those up a little bit. Again, totally optional, don't have to do that. Okay, and we can pop those in there. As I say, it doesn't really matter if your cutting out hasn't quite been as accurate as it could have been, especially around the bottom, you know, all those stalks and things. You don't necessarily need that to be accurate because you're not going to see it. Okay, so there we go, all looking marvellous. And then it's just a case of adding the sentiment. So I had a strip of crumb cake somewhere, there we are, there it is. Now for the sentiment I chose, didn't want this to be oversized. Half an inch was just a little bit too much. Just grabbing early espresso. This is actually 3/8 of an inch. That was what was going to be perfect for this one, but obviously you cut yours to match whatever you're doing, just making sure that that's all completely inked. Okay, and I am aiming kind of for the middle of that, just so that we've got room to cut it down how we want to. Couldn't get my head over that, so it's a little higher than it possibly should be, but again, you can get yours positioned much better than that, I'm sure. Then there's a whole load of things you can use to cut these down. Just trying to decide how I want to put this on actually, because it might actually look quite nice completely separate from that rather than across it like that. So I might just pop that down and just make a little mark. Right there. And just bring in the trimmer and just get that trimmed off, rather than using a punch or anything else. So, but you know, absolutely up to you. And equally, do we want it flat or raised up? I think raised up. And these little skinny bits might just be perfect for this. Can I fit 2 of them on? Not quite. Let's just trim off that just ever so slightly. Voila! So those are like the that's like the edge strip when you've used up all your dimensionals. Okay, so don't throw those away. They're really useful for things like this. Okay, we'll put just a couple of dabs of glue across that, which will just help it all stick in place, just like we did with the other elements. Okay, and that's it. Really muted down version of this. Okay, really different look depending on what colours you use. Okay, there's probably some middle ground in between there, so there's probably some nice earthy colours that we want to use for the foliage and mix and match it a little bit with bright plant pots, or vice versa, bright foliage with muted plant pots. So you've got loads of options on how you want to build up these. I know I've only used a selection of the different elements that you can use. There's loads of different types of leaf that you can do. So yeah, something to have a real good play around with. That's it from me today. I hope you've enjoyed that. Stay safe, take care. See you again soon. Bye.